Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. This is the 10th one of this 2022-23 season, and of course, I am joined here by our co-host, Ollie Hammonds. And Ollie, man, thank you for joining us once again, man.
Hey, glad to be here. We got some great games to talk about, some really, really close scores. First real week of competition within the conference back after our Christmas break. And really, when you think about it, it's one of our last week because you start looking at the list. It's the last time a few teams play each other before we get to that tournament. So we're already gearing up for tournament, thinking about tournament matchups because what we're going to talk about as well is the seeding is starting to get locked up as well.
Absolutely, we're starting to get a little bit locked down there on seating, and also today we got a guest. So Coach Shon Spradley of the Laurel Lady Hawks will be joining us later on in the show. So we're looking forward to talking to him, see what he's talking about. I'm sure he's pretty happy right now with how his team's playing for sure.
Oh yeah. My favorite part about this whole thing is that the Nighthawks are going to be the majority on this show, and I absolutely love that. You know, when we get on a show where only certain people have something to say, we got the majority. So this is a Nighthawk heavy show. I'm sorry, people, but I mean, you just gotta every once in a while.
I should have really milked it when Coach Willis was on here. Okay. So we're gonna go through this last week. So we got some 16U boys action going on, and to start off, we got the Laurel Nighthawks taking on the Hattiesburg Forerunners. The Nighthawks took the win 30-19. Low scoring game, defensive battle there, but Laurel able to get Hattiesburg again. The first time Laurel won by 2 points. This time they won by 11 at home. But I would still say that this would probably be a battle that if these teams play each other going into the tournament, it'd still be a pretty good battle.
Yeah, it definitely would. I think this game really does signify that Laurel, their 16U boys, has really improved, and I think that you can almost point to the date that they started really this improving and going up the ladder was against PCA. That PCA game, a really, really rough one. And afterwards, it's like they've just kind of regrouped and they've just kept progressing and progressing and progressing. And to beat a very, very, very good Hattiesburg team, hold them to just 19 points. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. I was in the gym for that one, and it felt closer than it actually was because there's a third quarter spurt there by the Nighthawks. Really, it was a close game until that third quarter, and then after the third quarter, the fourth quarter was really close. So just one little run really gave Laurel that win. So a really good game.
Yeah, and so then Mount Zion defeating the Jackson Victors 54-32. So a good win for Mount Zion's 16U boys, and just like we've been saying, Mount Zion's right there in the thick of things, right there in the middle of the conference, right there at I think right now they are at the 4 spot, if I'm not mistaken, because after those games it moved them up into the 4 spot above Hattiesburg. So Mount Zion Hattiesburg looks like that would probably be a first round matchup there at the 4 and the 5 because we got 8 teams there in the conference for 16U right there. Now talking about some Laurel again. Laurel defeating Tupelo. Tupelo, just like we've been saying earlier, Tupelo hasn't had that many games in conference, but they were able to play another one here, and Laurel able to get a 46-19 win. So Laurel's sitting good right now. But then let's talk about the team that locked down the number 1 seed in the with the Muddy River Counselors. They are the number 1 seed when the 16U tournament will come around for the MSAHA. They defeated the Laurel Nighthawks 49-34 at Salem Heights, but Laurel giving them a much more of a fight in that game as opposed to the first one, which was a 62-34 game.
Yeah, like I'm saying, they are just progressing. I'm not saying that Laurel 16U team is now the best team in the conference, but they're definitely making improvements and they're getting better as time goes on. Muddy River is not getting worse though, so that is a game that really does say a lot about the Nighthawks. And nothing about Muddy River only scoring 49 points. That's very out of the ordinary, and I would never, ever expect it again, right? They just didn't have a great game. I watched that game. Shooting was a little bit cold. Their shot selection was not bad. The shot selection was great. It just some of them just weren't going in, and some nights you're going to have that. But that should still say something about their offense that even on kind of an off night shooting, they still score 49 points. That press is still pretty deadly, but our guys have on 16U and 18U as well, I think really figured out kind of a way to sort of break the press better than they did last time.
Mm.
Still got burnt sometimes on it, but I think the handling of the press was the difference in that basketball game as compared to the last one.
Yeah. And then the Muddy River Counselors played a back-to-back, so they played the Jackson Victors, won that one 66-14. As that's winning by a lot there. On the road, the Muddy River Counselors are 11-0, and are number one in the 16U boys. 18U girls, that's headlined by the Laurel Lady Hawks, who we're going to be talking to Coach Shon later on about this, but they were able to beat Hattiesburg 56-16. Now, I mean, you look at that score and you think, okay, Laurel, they're undefeated, they're winning, but that's not how the first game was. It's 43-25. It's an 18-point game. This time it's a 40-point game, and a solid Hattiesburg team to beat there by 40. Of course, it was at Salem Heights. It's always tougher to play there on the road for Hattiesburg, but still, 40 points that's a big margin there.
Yeah, man, it was a rough December, very, very rough December. It was a long December, some would say, and it was it was very, very difficult because Laurel was on the road all the time. We were just constantly on the road. We had just 2 home games. That was it. And so our girls and our guys finally getting to be at home, be in a comfortable environment, and with our rims. And you're seeing that games that we've won by just a little are starting to become blowouts because we're in a comfortable environment. I think the Lady Hawk girls, man, they are peaking right now, and I don't see them going down anytime soon, man. They are playing fantastic basketball in that 18U girls. And barring a total collapse, my bet is on them in the state championship. I'm not trying to jinx it, I promise, but that would be my pick. Hattiesburg's a really, really good girls team, really, really good girls team. So that's saying a lot about Laurel and nothing about Hattiesburg. And so that was a great game.
Yeah, and so then another game that Laurel played, they defeated the Muddy River Counselors 72-11. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I was there for that, and that was something there.
Yeah, that was on the same night, and that's a perfect game to draw a comp to. That's on the same night as the national championship game. Here you have the TCU Horned Frogs, who are like, they're good, but they just hadn't been here yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lady Hawks have been there. They've been in the spotlight, and I mean they just 72 points in varsity girls basketball doesn't happen much. By the way, I had to get a mention of the national championship. We got to keep up with current times here, Trellis.
No. You're acting like you're keeping up with current times, but really you're just bragging about Georgia again, man.
Well, my boys,
we know the tactics, okay?
Listen, you know me by now too well, but scored 72 points in an 18U girls game is impressive, and until these recent couple of years with Laurel, that was kind of unheard of, right? But Laurel's offense is so explosive that they're scoring 72 points and 60 points regularly, and so a great week for Laurel. And we're going to talk to the man who has to orchestrate this, but it's going to be interesting to see how they orchestrate playing time and things like that with the top seed, locked up. How are they going to treat playing time and players that do play coming up to the tournament? Because ultimately, every coach in this conference knows the goal is that gold ball, right? It's not these regular season wins with the number 1 seed already locked up. So it's going to be interesting to see how they operate that. I still think they're going to, win more basketball games, but just when you look at that game, the only thing I see is 72 points, man. That's just explosive, and that's who Laurel is.
Yeah, and that team, technically, mathematically, we did have to say mathematically they've not locked down the number 1 seed yet, as there's still some more games to go. They just look very likely to be that number 1 seed there. They still do have another game against PCA and another game against Meridian up ahead. So we'll see what happens there, but so far they've had some pretty convincing wins. Also, the PCA Paladins and the Meridian Flyers. Now, this was a crazy girls game, overtime game, 35-34 PCA winning. It was in Hickory, and it was close. 1-point game, PCA pulling out the win. Man, just talk about that, because that's the 2 and the 3 seed there in the conference battling it out that close. And the first time they played is a 5-point game. That time it's a 1-point game. So, I mean, that's pretty close between the 2 and the 3.
Yeah, this girls division, while I will say Laurel is the clear front runner, it's still very competitive, right? It's still extremely competitive. I mean, and when you look from the 2 seed below, it's a very competitive jockeying for spots. I mean, no disrespect to other teams, but me and you have seen this. We're in the gym. Laurel is just overpowering, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's impressive. But when you look at this game, man, I see a Meridian team that's really, really, in my opinion, kind of gone above and beyond expectations for this season for just how competitive that they've made this division, and especially with PCA. PCA is a very established girls team. I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, you're clear if you just want to go off recent history. It's Laurel and PCA and this varsity girls and Meridian to hold them to 1 point going to overtime. And what I think we're seeing is that watching Meridian last year, their offense ran through one player, Sherman, and she's really has learned how to pass the ball around. Right, they're sharing the ball a lot. When you watch a Meridian girls game, they're sharing the ball a ton, and so players that weren't used to being offensive players have had to kind of get used to it. And, through November and December, they were learning just how to make a jump shot, right? That's a difficult thing to do, right? Just to learn how to make a jump shot when you aren't used to having that pressure on you. And they're starting to lock it in. They're starting to dial in where every player now, you got to watch out for every player, not just one. And so
Mhm.
they're becoming very dangerous coming into tournament time. And to hold PCA to 1 point overtime, that's extremely impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last 18U girls game we had of the week was the Muddy River Counselors, the Mount Zion Lions. Those are the two bottom seeds there in the 18U girls field. The Counselors able to get the win on the road, 45-41 is their first win over an 18U girls conference opponent, even though technically it was not a conference game because the two teams had already played twice and the Counselors were filling the spot that that Mount Zion didn't have in playing against the Victors. So just talk about that game. I mean, I was there for that one. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's Muddy Rivers really in their 18U girls division has really made a lot of improvements. That's why I talked about the Laurel girls and the Muddy River girls. This is a team that's had to start up. I've been on startup teams, not in basketball, but in baseball, and we took our lumps, man. And that second year, we didn't win much, but you did see signs of greatness. And then that third year came by, and winning started to be expected. And you kind of see Muddy River on that trajectory. Mount Zion girls are a very good basketball team as well. So close game, entertaining. That's what I love about our conference. There isn't many blowout games, and that's why the explosive offense of Muddy River this season, Laurel Lady Hawks 18U, and PCA and the 18U boys. That's why it's impressive because this conference is known for its competition. It's
Yeah.
very, very close. Everybody plays to the end because usually the last few seconds really do count, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why those teams are standouts. And but still, I do love that about our conference is that it's still competitive, no matter who plays who. And so that's a really good game.
Yeah, for sure. And moving into some 18U boys action, the Hasburg Forerunners defeating the Laurel Nighthawks 47-37, a 10-point game in that. And I was, got to say, I was wondering how that game would turn out because every time we are at Salem Heights, I would even put it out there. I might have to do a poll. I might need to ask the conference community what they think about this, but I think that it may be a chance that Salem Heights is the toughest home court in the league. It's a tough one. I mean, even how it sounds in there, like when you walk in there, the sound is all,
Dude,
you
you
know.
should. Okay, so I'll go a little bit off track here, but you should practice in that gym. So Coach Cliff Jenkins, very mild mannered man. He's
Oh,
not ever going to yell, and so he would be talking to saying, and then he would come back because the echo is just so loud in that gym. The
yeah,
second he would turn his back, I'm out. So that is probably why it's extremely loud. That echo, man, in that gym is crazy.
yeah. No, it is for sure. And but anyway, back to this game. Hattiesburg getting the win by 10, and which really helped them in the standings because that really made them firm there at the number 3, and it looks like they're probably going to keep that number 3 pretty solid there.
Yeah, very, very. That word, solid. That's a very solid basketball team. They don't really have any superstars, but that's kind of their beauty, right? They share the ball, man. They're a great basketball team. They're a team. They're a union, and they're very, 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 very good. Our boys played well, but we've known that we're not playing to our full potential, right? And we're about to talk about a game that I felt like I was very proud of the guys, because I think this loss as a player in the locker room, it kind of felt like a low, right? Felt like an extreme low point that we can only go up from in our minds. That's the way we feel. But I mean, you got to tip your hat to a team that's the good, that is that good. Excuse me. You know, Hattiesburg's not an easy win. They're not an easy win at all. So,
No.
you know, they're a very good basketball team. They deserve that win.
Yep. And so, and now the game that you're alluding to, which is the Muddy River Counselors Laurel Nighthawks game. Muddy River Counselors coming away with the 75-48 win. It was it really was an explosion in the second half that moved the Counselors away. At halftime, the score was 34-27. So a 7-point game at halftime. Counselors were able to explode in the second half. But talk about that game right there.
Well, you know, that's kind of one of them games where I know we didn't win, but like you felt like Muddy River walked out feeling great because they got the win. But I mean, we walked out of that gym feeling like, okay, this is something to build on, right? There's those losses that you've had a tough stretch and you just lose by a lot again. And you're like, well, you know, how much more down can we go? That's a loss that we felt like, you know, we can build on that, because Muddy River and PCA, two of the hardest presses in the league. And I felt like our guys did really, really well at breaking that press. You know, there were a couple times you're going to get beat on it a couple times. You know, Muddy River's really, really quick, and they got quick hands. You know, the refs, they were so amazing in that game. They were great. I mean, I wanted to pay them out of my own pocket. I mean, can anybody sense the sarcasm? Good Lord. I mean, good grief. I literally asked my coach, said, do we pay these people? Of course you love the referees. Of course you do. They fouled me out when I had 4 fouls. Anyway,
well, okay, they did do that. They did do that. That foul was on Kai. We love Kai, but that foul was on Kai.
You got to stick up for your man, Trellis. I'm on your team, man. You got to stick. I mean, you didn't go hard enough. Anyways.
Well,
anyways, that's a loss that we felt like we could really build on. Once again, Muddy River just kind of not. I mean, 60 new boys we talked about against us in the gym really wasn't their best shooting night, and it carried over into 18 new boys. Great shot selection. They have great ball movement, great shot selection, and they really didn't hit their shots to begin the game. But that late third quarter, early fourth, here came the threes, as someone on this show would say, bombs away, baby. I mean, Absolutely. They came one after another, and so it got to a point to where if they shot a three, I just go stand out of bounds to pass it in, because I knew it was going in. So you know, just that third quarter, really the score is, you know, a big deficit, but it really doesn't reflect the first 2.5 quarters. I think you would agree with that of the basketball game. But great game. I mean, very competitive. Up until the end, both teams were still competitive. Loved it. Got to shout out my man Corey Taylor. He shot the greatest shot of all time over his head. I'm gonna do a little plug for you, Trellis. If you want to watch the game, it's at the end. You got to watch the whole game, right?
That's right. You have to watch.
You got to watch the whole. You can't just skip to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that? Anyways, it was a great game. Fun energy. I mean, that's one thing I'll say about our gym. It's fun. It's just a extremely fun energy. So it was a fun game to be at and to play in.
Yep. And a big game there for Caleb Sanders. Caleb Sanders finishing with 21 points.
Yep.
And most of them right there in that third quarter.
Yep.
He was able to get 10 points in that third quarter alone. It was a big part of that, of blowing that lead out. But especially that buzzer beater there at the end of the third. That's a big one there. And just those kind of shots, you know, those that do a lot to get runs going. So it's a big game from him for sure. But then now you get some PCA action. PCA making the trip up to through Forest and Hickory, playing the Scott County Flames and the Meridian Flyers. They defeated the Scott County Flames 78-42, then defeated Meridian 81-27. So that's a big blowout there for PCA. PCA 8-0 in the conference now. They are now 19-2 overall. So unbelievable record from them. Their only 2 losses are to Oak Forest Academy, who's a very good team, and then PCS, who's one of the favorites in the whole state of Mississippi private school. So, you know, pretty good team, and both of those losses were not by very big numbers either.
No, I mean, everybody around the league, when you talk to them, I mean, this is the best PCA team we've seen ever.
Yeah, I've never seen a better PCA team.
It's just
Yeah.
they're amazing, and that's why us at Laurel felt so proud of ourselves for holding, being close to you guys at halftime, because the only people who have challenged Muddy River at all this season is PCA, right?
Yeah,
And Muddy River's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So PCA is just like they're on another level. I mean, when you look at the Laurel, they're the Laurel Lady Hawks, the 18U girls and the 18U boys. I mean, they're just an explosive offense, a fantastic defense. I think I saw somewhere they're nationally ranked.
Yeah, they're ranked 25th in the country in homeschool.
In the country. I mean,
there are a lot of homeschool organizations out there that play basketball. Basically, every organization plays basketball.
Yeah, and last time I checked, that's pretty good. So they are. I mean, it's kind of getting fun now just to see what is their ceiling, because they haven't reached it yet. They haven't reached it yet. That's the scary part. They have yet to peak.
Yeah,
they have yet to peak.
Last year, they finished their 16U season ranked 12th nationally in 16U. So, very good team. So it's surprising yet not surprising all at the same time.
Yeah.
So then you got Scott County and Meridian. Scott County defeating Meridian 67-65 in Hickory. Now, that was interesting. That's a really close game, but Meridian, man, you got guys coming back. You got Hasten Caldwell coming back. You got Cooper Franklin coming back. You got Peyton Mitchell coming back. So you're getting your team together, and the other guys have been playing the whole season. So now you get the pieces together, and now you can put up some competition here.
Yeah, Meridian, their whole team, right, girls and boys, in some great games this week. Scott County, making the trek to Hickory. That's a great game. I mean, those two teams are very evenly matched. I will say I'm very impressed with that score by Meridian. I expect that more this season. Like you said, they're getting people back.
Yeah.
And so I do expect them to be better than they were early on in the season. So you get people back in the fold. So Scott County, you get a win, you feel good. But I think if you're Meridian, you feel pretty good, because we can compete at the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's about like one of the few matchups we can already nail down is the Muddy River Counselors and the Meridian Flyers in the first round of the 18U, because Meridian's a solid at the 7 and Muddy River's a solid there at the 2. And so they'll be playing each other in the first round. So that'd be interesting to see there. Then finally, the Muddy River Counselors and the Jackson Victors, they played last night, and the Counselors won 78-25, which is a crazy game. I was watching it. It was 39-5 after the first quarter. Just an unbelievable performance there by the Counselors on the road. Not very far down the road, but on the road, and so that was an interesting game there. But before we get into next week's games, we're going to go ahead and bring on Coach Shon Spradley of the Laurel Lady Hawks, head coach of the team. Their team right now at the moment sitting at 11-3 overall, with, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a 7-0 record in conference. No, 8-0 record in conference with 11-3. Overall. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Good to see you, Trellis. See you, Ollie.
Yeah, for sure. Ollie, you can go and ask the first question.
Yeah, Coach, thank you for coming on, of course, as always. But my first question to you is, your team has suffered 2 very recent injuries with 2 of your varsity starters, Lillian Cranford and Lillian Bond. 2 kind of the same injuries. We know Lillian Cranford is out for the season. Lily Ann Bond's condition is very, we don't know the definites yet, but it's kind of looking like it's probably going to be the same thing. I'm not going to say any definites there, but how are you going to have to deal with 2 starters missing? Like how's the rotation going to have to change, and what players are you going to have to plug in where?
Well, when Lillian Cranford first went down, we didn't know she was going to be out for the season, and she was still playing some. So we were actually able to get a couple of girls, rotated in for her. And so we've kind of been working on that since, probably the next game after she got hurt. With Lillian, she's been out since the first Wayne Academy game, which was back in probably November. So we've had to, Holly Ensign has come in and done a fantastic job for her. She was going to be in the rotation with the post players, but she's come in and just really, really taken over that position. And so I'm super proud of her. But we've also got, a couple other girls, that can come in and can make some noise too. Kara Bond can come in. She's another big. She's actually become a little more, I guess, stronger underneath the basket than she was. She's kind of growing into the position. Also, J.C. Hayden and Catherine is also really, I guess, serviceable underneath the basket when we need them, for subs. So a lot of these players are kind of utility players. They can play kind of on the perimeter or underneath the basket. So, but they've all gotten a lot of playing time too, So Emily Taylor has come on and just been fantastic, especially defensively. She is so fast, and she's just really, really done really good for us. But I mean, Carmelina Santa, all of them, they all can come in and they can all score. They can all go in and play great defense. One thing we have this season, and we kind of had it last season too, but our bench players can come in and pretty much everything can pretty much stay pretty close to the same as the starters. So I think they've all got a lot of playing time this season, just subbing in, and also when we've gotten big leads too, we can put them in and let them have some playing time too. So just they've gotten some experience, and they all play so good together. They've all been playing together for years, and they've all bought into the system, and they're just playing at a high level. And I think they, it's fun, right? They're just having fun, right? They're just got a good attitude. But I think all the players have just gotten enough playing time, subbing in that it's nothing really changes, kind of. Other than just down a couple of players that we can't put in the game, But I can also pull up a couple of other players that are younger too, and if we need to, and they can do pretty well too. So it's that's a good problem I have right now is players that can play.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one thing I was going to ask you right there is just last year, you guys won the championship. It was the first time in Laurel history getting that girls championship there. You're able to win it last year. Now you're trying to repeat. Just talk about the difficulties of trying to repeat as opposed to doing it the first time.
Well, I think that, the target's on your back for sure. Everybody wants to beat, the reigning champion, I guess you'd say. But the way we look at it is just, it's a new season. This is new, starters, a lot of them. And, really and truly, we have a little bit different identity this year, the way we play. So it feels like a completely different team, really. Even though it's the same team and we're still doing the same things, it's just, I guess the chemistry is so much different. And so I think that's why a lot of times we come in and, we can just really, really come in at a high intensity early on, because they trust each other and they play so well together, and they just have a good time. And I think that's what it is. They're just having fun. As well as anybody, when you're having fun, good things happen. So
for sure.
But as far as repeating, hopefully we can. I know it's tough once you get into the tournament. Things can change. So we're just going to keep playing hard. Another thing that this team has done this year is they're playing at, the same intensity every game. Used to we play down to teams, and, some of the teams who weren't that good, we'd kind of look kind of sloppy and stuff against. But this year it's like we're coming in and playing the same game every time, and so I think that too has helped us a lot too with, keeping everybody kind of on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. Ollie, I think you had another question.
Yes, I do, Trellis. Thank you. Um,
Um,
when you look at these players that you have starting on 16U and that you have playing, 18U, and playing the bulk of the minutes in the 18U game, you start noticing this is like their first year really as 18U players, and so and they've transitioned extremely well, obviously. So, how did you coach them or help them prepare for 18U ball instead of 16U ball?
Well, when they're practicing against the varsity starters, it's tough, So I think that has helped them in practice because we practice at a high level. We don't well, and I get on them for not practicing like game speed or whatever, but they really do a lot of times practice at a high level, and they really help each other out. I tell them that you're only hurting each other if you don't play or practice hard. So I think that's the main thing is, the competition in practice is so much higher than it used to be that those players have learned. And even some of these 14U players can go in there and really just, compete. I'm not saying they're the best players we have or anything, but they can compete with a lot of these teams. And so, them just practicing together. And again, like I said, with these players subbing in a lot and playing a lot of 18U action, it's just we started off a little bit bumpy at the beginning of the season, but we've gotten better and better as the season has gone along, and that's probably a big part of it right there. Just giving them that much playing time, game time experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that'll wrap up our discussion with you, Coach Shon. I appreciate you joining us for the interview for sure.
No problem, man. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And so, that's Coach Shon Spradley, folks. We appreciate him joining us today. We didn't have any guests the last two times. I was glad to have him on today as we get things back rolling, and we're about to come through the final stretch of this season. And so now we're going to look into next week's action. So we got 16U boys. We only have 2 games in 16U, and it's coming up on January 13th, which will be Friday. The Jackson Victors and the Laurel Nighthawks. Now, the Laurel Nighthawks very much favorites right now. Laurel, they're rolling right now in 16U. They lost to the Muddy River Counselors, but everybody in the league has. The Counselors are 11-0. But the 16U boys for Laurel, 7-4 in conference, 10-5. Overall, they took losses there to PCA, 2 to Muddy River, and I'm trying to remember what the other 16U loss was for Laurel. They're sitting at 7-4. I don't recall. I don't recall what the other one was.
I'm blanking as well.
Yeah, I'd have to.
We're terrible journalists. Good Lord,
man! I'm telling you, man. Anyway, so. But those 2 teams are going to play at Salem Heights. So just preview that game for us.
Yeah, kind of a light week this week coming up in games wise, but Laurel's definitely the heavy favorites. Probably, we've documented a lot. Jackson 16U boys just having a tough year. Every team can't win them all, right? What's the statement? Can't win them all. Jackson really has chosen their 14U and 18U teams over their 16U team, which is, when you go to the games, it's not like, oh, poor kids who play on 16U. Well, they either play on 14U or 18U. So, right. This isn't their only team as well. So, they've prioritized the development and the current, and it's just a rough year. So, yes, Laurel is the favorites. I will definitely be at the gym for that one. That's going to be interesting. It's always interesting, though, when Jackson plays Laurel. That's a rivalry that dates back way, way, way back in the history of the MSAHA. So, I can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, for sure. And I looked back at it. Laurel actually lost the buzzer to Meridian. Meridian beat them at the buzzer of that game in Hickory. So, just interesting. You never know what will happen on a given night. Now, other game is Hattiesburg and PCA, so that would be a 16U matchup. And PCA, they've only lost 2 games all season, including in non-conference. They've been winning as well. I mean, their only 2 losses are to Muddy River overall, as well as in conference. They are doing well. Now they're playing against Hattiesburg, and Hattiesburg so far they're 3-4. Whereas PCA is 8-2 overall with 4-2 in conference. But that'd be interesting to see. But it's down in Lacombe, and Lacombe. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna have to do this poll, man. I'm gonna have to ask the people, because I'm a man of the people. You know what I mean? So I got to ask the people what they think about what's the toughest place to play. Because PCA is another tough place to play because PCA they don't miss at their gym.
We got comments, right? Leave us the answer in the comments. Another thing I want to know if people understand this, if they see this as well, what I see. Everybody out there, I'm talking to you, Trellis, you can tune out. How many people notice the smile that comes over Trellis's face when he says they've only lost to Muddy River this year? You love saying that, man.
Well, look,
I've noticed this. The smirk comes. The smirk comes. Come on.
Man, look, you're pulling the homer out of me, man. What are you trying to do, man?
I'm just saying. Listen, I always have this next to me.
Yeah, I know you're definitely a homer. Okay.
So you know what? You can listen. You can smile. I just want to see if the people see it like I do. But that's gonna be a good game. That's gonna be a great game. PCA just their boys teams are rolling right now, right? They're just rolling. They have been for the past few years. They got a taste of a championship last year. They really want that 18U1, but don't think that they're passing up the 16U1 either. So they're wanting to win in 16U as well. It's their title to defend. So and
it is.
And of course I'll say it. They've only lost to Muddy River, so you'd have to say PCA. PCA is the clear favorites in this game, but it's a great chance for Hattiesburg. Sports really does have that great sort of you can have that bravado of why not us, and so Hattiesburg can really walk in the gym with the why not us. Why can't we beat PCA? So while PCA is the favorites, I wouldn't sleep on that game
for sure. So then in 18U girls action,
really good one
Hattiesburg
here.
And Hattiesburg PCA playing, and Hattiesburg, they gave PCA a real good fight last time. Is a 37-32 game there, a win for PCA, but very close game there. So I mean, I wouldn't sleep, just like you were saying, you wouldn't sleep on that matchup. I wouldn't sleep on this matchup either.
No, I would not. This is a great basketball game. 2 teams you can really see in the championship game. I mean, there's 4 teams in this girls conference that I could absolutely legitimize seeing in the championship game, and that's a great conference, man. Not many other. That's a great division. Excuse me, and not many other divisions in our conference can say that. So this is just another great game to chalk up on the board. I would expect PCA to get the win. They're at their home court. They've been here before. Hattiesburg, while they have been successful in the past, they're still trying to get used to being that powerhouse, right? That they can be, and that they kind of have been this season. But I'd still have to hand it over to PCA there.
Yeah, they would be the favorites in that one. Then you got 18U boys, you got Jackson and Laurel. And what's interesting there is that we've been talking about these games. Jackson had they got blown out by the counselors there at home. But the thing is, though, is that it's always a matchup game, because the counselors known for pressing, and Victor's had a tough time with the press. Against Laurel, you're probably not going to get as pressured as much. It's going to be more like a half-court game. And so last time the Victors won, of course, Kai Welch, Caleb Blankenship were not playing in it, but the Victors still won the game.
Yeah.
And so now these teams are going to play at Salem Heights, and so we'll see what happens there. Just to preview that game. I know you're going to be involved in it, but go ahead and preview that game.
Yeah, I think that with the inclusion of Caleb Blankenship and Kai Welch and at our gym, you can kind of wipe that loss off the board. This is kind of like refreshing. So I really cannot call this basketball game. Hope it's a Laurel win. Obviously, I would probably get kicked off the team if I said I really think Jackson's going to win this game. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. It's always. I mean, I talk about this all the time. Personally, I think it's the best rivalry in the conference. Jackson and Laurel. Varsity boys.
Those games still always end up being close.
Going to be a close game, man. Always going to be a close game. So I do not think it's going to be a blowout. one way or the other.
How
I
about
think
last year's game at Salem Heights? I mean, both games last year, Laurel and Jackson, came down to the wire. Big shots, like clutch shots to win.
Yep,
So,
Jacob Morey. I've watched that game over like 4 or 5 times.
So yeah, that should be an interesting. Should be an interesting game to see what happens in that.
It absolutely will.
And then last game, Hattiesburg and PCA 18U boys. And I mean, look, it's a battle between the 1 and the 3, and these teams played. Now PCA, they won nearly by 40 the first time, 70-32 over Hattiesburg. But this time we'll have to see what happens. Of course, it's going to be in Lacombe, at Lacombe Recreation Center. Tough place to play. And so we'll see what happens there. Go ahead and preview that one.
Yeah, you see, this game is a lot like the national championship game, right? You've got the TCU Horned Frogs that are, they're brand new to the scene, and you got the PCA Paladins who are experienced in this position, even in their home gym. So I can't do this without laughing. So it's gonna be an interesting game to see the outcome. Hattiesburg, we talked about it earlier. Hattiesburg's a really, really solid team. Really, really solid team. And there's no more solid team in the conference than PCA. So I'm going to have to call a PCA win. I don't think I'd be very smart if I didn't. PCA, and listen, I ain't saying nothing about Hattiesburg. That ain't saying that's a tough win.
We're talking about a 19-2 team, man.
Yeah, we're talking about a number. What did you say? 22 in the nation.
Yeah, 25th, but whatever.
25, 25. My bad. Yeah. I mean, it's just what's he gonna? Nobody's beat them. No, nobody has beat them yet in our conference. So, great story if Hattiesburg wins. I mean, as a sports fan, I'm going to be cheering on Hattiesburg, but because that'd be a cool story. But I mean, I got to give the benefit of the doubt to PCA. But that's going to be a fun score to see, because Hattiesburg's got really, really good defense and very quick defense. They got a very quick defense. They don't let many open threes. Right. I recognize that when we've played them, we really haven't hit many threes because we haven't been able to take them. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how that they shut down the three. So it's going to be interesting to see how that defense plays against PCA.
Yeah, should be very interesting there. So that'll wrap up the games that we're talking about. And I'm serious about this. Please, in the comment section, if you will, go ahead and leave a comment saying which gym is and we're talking about gyms. We're not talking about teams, all right? Because you can't just be like, an 18U boys, it's toughest to go to Lacombe. Well, of course, because PCA's playing. All right?
Yeah.
Look, but hey, if that's the toughest gym to play in, or it's the toughest atmosphere, then hey, pick it. But the thing is that, okay, so you got Lacombe Recreation Center for PCA, you got Salem Heights Baptist Church for Laurel, you got First Presbyterian in Hattiesburg for Hattiesburg, you got Hickory, the Hickory Gym for Meridian. You got Hines B. Hall for the Muddy River Counselors.
Hey, time out. Notice how much vigor he had in his voice, folks, when he said Hines B. Hall. Give me that comment. Give me that comment.
Man, you got Sunnybrook for the Victors, man.
Yeah.
Mount Zion's got First Baptist Mendenhall. Man, look, just leave it. Leave it in the comment section and give us your the toughest environment to play in. But anyway, the last thing I was going to talk about is yesterday was Ollie's birthday, man. So happy birthday, Ollie, man. And so we had to honor you, man, by talking about Laurel and Georgia all over and over again, even though you
I know. My birthday, you know what it was like? It was like the national championship game.
Okay.
So,
you just blew it out, didn't you?
Exactly. I just had all the fun, man. All the fun. Oh. Stetson Bennett won 1 pick in the draft. That's all I got to say about that.
Man. Hey, Stetson Bennett, and he did it up, man. 6 touchdowns. That's something up. All right, man. Appreciate all y'all joining us. Thank you for joining us for another MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I think we might try to keep doing these at 8:30 because we might be able to get guests at this time. We were able to get viewers as well. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next week for more right here. The MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. We out.